Welcome back to another week of Keene No Spin.
It's actually 2 weeks, Randy.
But it's only 1 week at a time.
Understood, but it goes for 2 weeks.
Welcome back to another edition of Keene No Spin. I'm Randy Filiault.
And I'm Chris Coates.
It is the Chris Coates who I was picking up the Sentinel today. We're taping this on a Wednesday, April 10th, and Chris is on page 3 at a school board meeting, just waking up.
Or trying not to fall asleep. It looked like at that point. I don't know.
Looked like you were having welcome back to school board. Glad you're excited.
Chris was talking at that point, and I was listening intently. Chris Roberts.
Is that what it was?
Yes, I was. I was tuning in to what Chris had to say.
Let me double check that about intently.
Chris is usually spot on when he speaks about issues. So
that's pretty intent. Looks like you're intent of opening your eyes, but that's okay.
Hey, you know, in the old days, my mom would have,
Oh yeah.
Would have cut out the article and saved it for me.
Oh, yeah.
She did that. I didn't know she was doing that in like 4 years ago. She just gave me this box and then another box of things when I was in the paper.
She knew when you were sleeping.
Yeah.
It was like back in the early days, you and I were in city council when they didn't have cameras. Mm-hmm. And they didn't catch everything that we did.
Oh, you know what? But even with cameras, you can still have fun. You just need to know where the cameras are.
The problem with council meetings now, they're in the ceiling where you can't see them. Remember the old days, they were like these.
Yeah, but if the conversation's on the other side of the room,
I don't know.
You can.
When you got these guys and Rick Blood in the control room, you can't trust anything.
Yeah, that's true.
If they see you doing things, they're going to catch you. So how was your last 2 weeks?
It was good. It's been busy. Busy, but we're if I get through this weekend, with the show, the radio show, and then I work until I work through Wednesday. I'm going up to the governor and council meeting in Concord on Wednesday, and then come back, and my wife and I get in the car and we drive to our daughter's house for Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday.
Where's that?
Saturday, Sunday, and come back Monday.
Down near D.C.? Somewhere in that area?
Yeah, she's down in Maryland, outside of Frederick, which is about an hour direct to D.C., which means it's about an hour and 40 minutes because of traffic.
So how long from Keene?
8.5. It's not horrible. I usually like flying, but we have a puppy, and so we're driving down with him.
8.5-hour trip for a guy usually means maybe one tank of gas, maybe the bathroom. But if you got a wife or daughter or girlfriend going with you, that's about 9 or 10 bathroom stops, a couple of food stops, let the puppy pee. Yeah, could take a while.
It's going to take a while because it's a puppy, and so every 2.5, 3 hours, you're going to pull over, and he's going to want to do something. But he's a great dog, so we'll hope that it's going to be a great ride down. So how was your last 2 weeks in government? Anything? Oh yeah, there's a lot going on in the county, but. Yeah, there is. We just, there's a lot of exciting things that are happening that we're doing. We've.
Well, stay off the boring things. Just do the exciting things.
Well, we're continually evolving programming. We have a program called a System of Care, which maybe we'll have the individual come on at some point down the road, and we're
having guests on from now on because Chris and I can be boring. He can be boring.
And we'll get to that. We have a guest today, and we'll get to them. But he had reached out to me, and we hadn't been doing guests, but there was a concern he wanted to bring forward. He's a local realtor. You'll know him when you see him. He dances, sings. He's just multi-talented, but. But he wanted to just talk about some concerns he had. So we said, yeah, come on. And that got us thinking and thought maybe we can start having some guests. So I know that in 2 weeks from this show, Jim Romanier will be joining us.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and we'll be talking about some issues.
Jim was the publisher of the Keene Sentinel for a while. Mm-hmm. Cool.
So got a lot of things that are going on. But yeah, but going back to the System Care, it's a great program that actually is working in the school systems, and the grant comes through us. That's why it's in the county, and it's really working with kids that would be at risk of out-of-district placement, which we always hear some of the highest costs that schools have to pay. Mm-hmm. So if we can keep a young person, if that's in his best interest in the community, it's a win for everybody, especially the student. Now there are some situations where it's best for the child for whatever reason to be in a more 24/7 type therapeutic setting, but 9 times out of 10, if this program can help, that person doesn't have to have that come to that situation.
Cool.
I want to. The other thing that we're really talking.
Chris brought a ton of notes and things. Let me backtrack a little bit when Chris usually does this show. 10 minutes late, brings a pen sometimes, sits down and says, let's go.
Yeah.
So I'll use my notes, my paper, all of this. Chris has more notes right here than a Webster's dictionary, for those of you that are old enough to remember what dictionaries are. So go ahead with your stack. We only have an hour.
Okay, so I'm actually gonna go to a different thing first. The Sentinel had an article about in Marlow, large school tax hike prompts new talks about education funding. So they've been doing an educational series up there at the Perkins School, and it's been well attended. And this past week they had their senator who represents their district. It's not Jay Conn, it's New Hampshire State Senator Ruth Ward come on, and they were talking about education.
Right.
A little back history. Senator Ward has been a senator since 2016.
Okay.
She sits on the Education Committee. And they're talking about, in this day and age, a small town like Marlow, special ed can become a civil war. It can be neighbor against neighbor, talking about how a child's costing people out of their homes and all. I've seen it 100 times where this has occurred. But they were talking about out-of-district placement. And first, I applaud Marlow. I think it's great what they're doing, how they're bringing a community together to really educate them. And I think it's something that on the Keene School Board, they should, we need to work on telling our story better, because I don't think we do it as well as we could. But it was the biggest problem they said, about out-of-district placement. And they're talking about cost and how the state doesn't fund back, a percentage on I've always said catastrophic aid, and I've said it 100 times now, but it's, catastrophic aid is, the state says, special ed out of district placements costs are $15,000. Well, if it's 3 times over that, the state will pay the difference 100%. Oh no, now it's 80%. And it just, that's how they don't add a new tax, they change the formula, so we get less money back, so that means a burden to the taxpayer. And it drives me nuts. But the senator said in the discussion, it said most of the information turned out to be news to Ward, Senator Ward, who said she didn't realize school districts pay for special education students' residential care. She said she thought districts' responsibility was limited to transportation for those students. This is somebody that's voting on your funding, funding that goes back to schools, that didn't know that the tax burden on special ed, because especially since the federal government doesn't pay what they're supposed to be paying either. They
Unfunded
pay
mandate.
They pay for the special ed costs that they're supposed to be 40%. We get 18% of special ed monies from the feds, and she thinks that she thought that the district's responsibility was limited to transportation, and she's been there since 2016. It was, I read that, I'm like, are you kidding me? And then she says later in the discussion, the senator posed a rhetorical question about per pupil education costs. If the Newport Montessori School annual tuition is $8,300 per child, while public schools in the same town spending around $14,000 or $15,000. Because a Montessori school, and my daughter went to a Montessori school for a period of time in her life when she was younger. And it was a great experience. But a Montessori school can say yes or no. Public school opens the door and lets everybody through that door.
Right.
And with that comes certain federal mandates that we just said.
Unfunded federal mandates.
Special ed costs, I just said, they're not paying 100,
Right.
the 100% of the 40% that they're supposed to be paid. And so, but there's a litany of other reasons why too, and so it was just astounding to me. And so after the frustration and shock of it all, because I can't believe that somebody's actually who votes on these things and makes a difference and could be somebody that could walk the line on going with the Republicans or Democrats. Depending on where she thought it was, she didn't know. She didn't know. And she's on the Education Committee. She didn't know. But then I realized what I took out of it was we need to do a better job. We need to make sure the community is as aware about what we're doing and why we're doing it. Because for whatever reason, when it comes to the state, you throw it up against the wall. It doesn't stick. When when people get angry, they come to the city council. When people get angry, they go to the school board. Yeah, even come to the county. I mean, this past year when we did the bonding for the nursing home, and we talked about it for 8 years. It's not like the train, it didn't leave early. It was like, no, it left.
Yes, it's not breaking news.
Yeah.
It's been there for a while.
And people were upset because of the monies, the cost that increased. But we tried to, as best we could, tell people. And then, but once we explained it out to them, and we reminded them that it was the nursing home bonding that really pushed it up, then they were okay, because 9 times out of 10, when it comes to the elderly, people will say, "That's okay."
Yeah.
So, but I just wanted to bring that up, and it's not. I don't personally know Senator Ward. I've met her a few times, but I was just shocked in this day and age, especially somebody that's going to vote on certain topics.
And she sits on the committee.
Yeah.
That's even more distressing.
Yeah, so I'll be quiet now. Let you talk.
Really?
Yeah.
And one thing that points out too is also the great job that Senator Khan is doing. Jay, in my opinion, is on top of the issues. Is knowledgeable on the issues, and very rarely gets caught on, especially when you sit on a committee. You just don't get caught off guard.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes especially at state, if it's somebody else's committee and you're not completely involved with it, but to be able to sit on a committee and not know.
Now, I know that there's a few councilors on the city council right now that don't like it when somebody brings forth a statement that they want to then have the council vote on and then move it on, send it on to the governor and elected officials and stuff, right? I know that
there's a few of them that don't.
And I don't quite understand that, because
all politics are local.
Yeah, but I don't know how somebody in Concord or somebody that's representing us in Concord knows how a certain city or town is their view.
How they feel,
if
right.
you are elected to represent all of us
Absolutely.
on some levels, right? You're at large, right?
Yes.
So you're representing me too. And so if I think it's important and you think it's important enough, and I actually talked to Mitch Greenwald about this the other day, and I really think, and I think he is going to look at it. He may be reaching out to you at some point too. But the meals and rooms tax that was enacted in 1967, where the state bargained with the municipalities so that if the municipalities agreed to collect the revenue for the state would split the revenue 60-40 with the municipalities, right? That was promised and made into law. And then the state never kept that promise, okay?
What a shock.
Today, only 21% of that revenue is shared with the municipalities, even though meals and room tax revenue have risen dramatically. Okay, and this is taking hundreds of millions of dollars from our local communities over the past decade. And guess what? Everyone's taxes raised because they don't, to fill the void. And I think as a city council, this is one issue I think that people should say, this is wrong. This is this is an agreement you made that you haven't kept, and you need to. And I don't care if it's 21% and it's supposed to be at 60%. I don't care if it takes 5 years to get to the 40%. I think we're 40%.
Right.
I don't care if it takes 5 years to get to the 40%. Let's get there, though. I understand that you can't just turn. I say this all the time too. Turn the Titanic around and steer it away from the iceberg. But you can start slowly moving it away from danger. And I just think that this is wrong. And so, like I said, I did reach out to Mitch. He was very interested in it and said that he would. He and I are going to talk later this week to see if because I'm going to give him some more information on it. So.
Well, I'm not afraid to send letters to the to the governor or to our.
No, but I think the
Senate.
I think the council should be doing this.
Absolutely.
And I don't understand why any councilor would not want to voice. Now, if they don't agree with it, then they vote against what's being said. Not against what is being allowing the process to occur.
Nope. I agree. And there's always comments. Well, the council needs to stop blaming the state, for all the problems. We don't blame the state for all of our funding problems. However, this is a perfect example of, we don't get what's promised us. That when the state wants to balance their budget, and it's always, when I hear the state has found ways to balance their budget, it's usually on the backs of towns and cities. That, like you said, they found an extra 20% of rooms and meals tax to grab hold of and use it for their general fund, and cities and towns get left holding the bag.
Right.
And people wonder why taxes don't go down. Well, that's why.
Right.
You start your budget off at the beginning of the year, making up for the shortfall the state is sending us.
Well, and that's like with this whole situation with the governor. I appreciate that he found 70 little sites throughout the state of New Hampshire to target around added monies, because revenues came in higher than what was projected. And I get that. But the bottom line for me is I don't see anywhere in there where he's actually, this is a one-time hit. So next you give certain money to Swansea, which is, they need that money for the dam. I get it. They get the money at Keene State College. But at Keene State College, what they really need is more money overall, so that they can keep the tuitions reasonable, so that we're not losing to out-of-state kids coming in and
Right.
in-state. I mean, it's just like no one wants to deal with the bigger issue, but but they're being. It's like a musician that's putting up smoke, saying, "Look, I'm doing these 70, these 70 sites here, and don't look at over here behind the curtain where we have." Highways and bridges, that are red flagged all over the place
like
and
every
need
bridge in
work,
Keene.
and we have education funding issues, and we have the retirement system that's went from 32% funded by the state to 0, and that for the school district at the time that was a $750,000 increase. How do you do that? It's the business profit tax enacted in 1968, again with the state promise that they would revenue share revenue sharing to the cities and towns, which decreased over time, and so that currently no money comes back to and who fills that void? Again, the taxpayers.
Local taxpayers.
And this is stuff that's wrong, And I really, the highway block grants and the state bridge aid. People talk about the New Hampshire Advantage, and it's a gimmick. It's just a plain gimmick. It's sort of like when they say the pledge. The pledge is a gimmick. There's nothing more than that. You are being taxed at the level you're being taxed because we don't appropriately, have a whatever it looks like. Some people say income tax, leisure tax, sales tax.
Yep.
I don't know. But
But you are right, Chris, because the voters will, especially at city council level, we get most of the blame. They're not afraid to come right after us on social media or publicly or at meetings and school board. And now you're saying even county is getting hit, but they never go after the state. Hardly ever do they. Is our state reps called onto the carpet? It's usually more at the local level that we have to take the hits for the lack of funding that we're promised from the state.
And the thing over here is that we have some great reps over here. We do, but it's important that we have the voice over here. I hear this all the time where people will say to me, is there an imbalance over here and is that healthy? Well, because we have 23 state reps, of which 21 are Republican. And I say, well, if that's the case, then look at Belknap County, Rockingham County, and Sullivan County. They're the same situation, but reversed.
Right.
And so it is what it is. And because of that, we have though we have control, we don't have a huge margin control. We don't have a supermajority, so that we can block a veto, And in the Senate, it's really one vote.
I hear you, man.
So
Good topics, but
I'll be quiet.
Not afraid to put letters out to the state. So if you want to get a hold of Mitch, I'm sure my name will go on that letter.
Okay.
Speaking of Greenwald, what a good segue.
Yeah, didn't I do well?
You did very good.
And you
Chris.
really didn't talk about anything today.
I wonder why. You ever sit beside this guy when he's ready to go?
No, but Josh.
That's all good.
Yeah, Josh had reached out to me and said that he had a situation where he was working with a client and they had some concerns and he wanted to have a venue where he could speak. And I hear that you're also going to be on Dan Mitchell's show tomorrow.
So
Friday.
Yeah.
Friday. So that's good. So that's Friday, which would be the 9th. because right? No, what's today?
I don't have any
No,
idea.
12th. The 12th.
Today's the 10th.
So it would be the 12th, because people listen to the show if we're going 2 weeks, they can think, oh, I'm listening to Dan and not on, and we lied. So, welcome.
Thanks.
Take it away.
Thanks for having. Oh,
well,
let's get started now.
Go.
Bring out
Yeah.
my charts and graphs.
Yep.
Yeah,
Go.
But tell us what led to you reaching out to me and why you felt it was important to come and make sure that the message of accuracy and make sure that there's no misinformation flying out there.
Okay. Well, a typical day for a realtor is when you're having trouble with selling a home and it hasn't sold yet. Usually, the sellers want to ask why. What's going on? And then I went to go visit these particular clients, and they have a very unique, very beautiful property, and it will sell. Most properties do. And they said, well, we're really concerned about the market, Josh. And I said, well, why? Obviously, as I'm indicating, they're slightly older. And they said, well, we were listening on the radio, and we heard local politician say that the market is not doing so well and things aren't so well, and we're really concerned, Josh, that we're not going to be able to sell our house now, and do you think that this has an effect, and what's going on? And so I immediately just kind of flashed back to when I was a kid, and this, you know my father Mitch, obviously, you just mentioned him, hell of a guy, plug for my dad. And, he operated clothing stores on Main Street in Keene for, 30 years. And on his desk, as I was kind of just hanging out there all the time, because that was my after-school activity, was just sitting down there or folding clothes or doing whatever my dad wanted me to do. He had this thing on his desk with an old story called The Big Depression. And it didn't really make any sense to me until I went to college and I took economics and I understood how it all worked. So to summarize the story, it's about a hot dog vendor that made his living selling hot dogs on the side of the road. And his business was doing fine, so he increased his advertising. He bought more hot dog buns. More people came and stopped, and they bought his hot dogs. And as his business was going well, he did more of that, more investing, more selling of hot dogs. He made so much money that he could send his son to college to get smart. And so he sent his son to college, and he was pleased about that. His son comes home. And he noticed that his father is, increasing his advertising and expanding his business. And he said, Dad, what are you doing? And he goes, what are you talking about? I'm running my business. He goes, well, didn't you know? Didn't you hear what's going on? There's a depression going on. You better prepare. You got to prepare for the worst. He's like, well, my son's smart. He goes to college. He must know. So he cut back on his advertising. And he stopped buying as many hot dog buns. And sure enough, his business went down. And he said, you know what? He was right. There is a big depression coming. So, and what that meant to me right there is that the market is what we make it, okay? So if you take that R out, market, make it.
Yeah.
Meaning that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, that we are the market, the sellers and the buyers of the market. So when I heard that the market is not doing well, it reminded me of like, well, it might not now, if that's what you said. But thankfully, actual accurate data is proving otherwise in New Hampshire. And so I figured, well, maybe people that watch your show, which is millions of people, I'm sure. It's all over the world.
It's global.
Right. And people that listen to Dan Mitchell's radio show, which are plenty.
Couple of people.
Few people. Not as many as your show.
No.
Right. That they be interested in being reassured of what is going on in the trenches as a realtor in Cheshire County, New Hampshire. So that's why I'm here.
Okay.
Not to just tell old stories about my dad.
No, but I think it's important because I don't pretend to understand the housing market right now, and I don't know where things stand. But at the same time, we all work very hard to make sure Keene and Cheshire County as a whole is moving in the right direction. And so, I guess my first question to you then is, where do we stand currently, and is that an improvement from where we were a year ago?
The answer to that is yes. And I'll answer your question in detail. First of all, we're much better off than we were in 08, 09. All right, that goes without saying that the market is definitely on the up. If you start to look on a real microeconomic look, a real snapshot of month to month, it's going to ebb and flow and fluctuate based on seasons, based on the holidays, based on family schedules such as vacations. But really, if you want to look at how the market is doing, especially in Cheshire County, which most of your viewers are mostly concerned with, everyone's very interested in the national scene, New Hampshire, of course. But then really it's about Cheshire County because most people are the star of their own movie, so they're interested in what's going on in their life. And the reality is that I think it's pretty good. If there's one predominant theme that's occurring in Cheshire County is lack of supply. There is not a lot of houses for sale. As of this morning, there were 44 single-family residential homes for sale in Keene.
Is that, do people, like, are we considered out of the winter months? And, like, you know, a lot of times you hear people say in late November, early December, they're pulling their house off the market and we'll put it back on in April. So are we going to see an uptick on some levels as it starts to warm?
Yeah, I mean, the real estate market is like the New England seasons, all right? And people try to follow that track. And it's funny, too, because people go and say to me, Josh, when's the best time to list my home for sale? And my knee-jerk reaction is, when you want to sell, that's when you should do it. Well, when should we look to buy? Do you need to buy a house? Yeah, well then start looking at houses. A lot of people want to go and dump their house on the market in the springtime when everyone else is dumping their house on the market in the springtime. And that's like me saying, you know, I'm married, very happily married, so I'm not looking for another girl. But if I was out to look for a girl, I should go when all the other guys are going to look for girls. No, maybe I should go when I'm the only guy there.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Because
Your odds
I'm
are
going
better.
to look great. You know? So, and when people say, well, should we list in the winter? I said, A, if you need to sell your house in the winter, you should list it in the winter. And B, the people that are looking in the winter, they are serious buyers. People don't just casually browse for houses when there's a foot of snow on the ground. All right, they're looking to buy a home, and you will definitely stand out. Now, the springtime, there's also a good reason to list then is because the buyers are come out of their hibernation and everybody's looking, and people are into that school schedule. Well, now I'll list my house for sale, so then maybe we can sell it. Kids are out of school, and then we'll get in, so there's no interruption in our family cycle.
Yeah. I was told by one realtor a long time ago, green, the lack of musty smell, and what was the third one? And that you can make things prettier on the outside and to go along with the inside. Because in the winter months, the windows are shut.
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, it's just, so it's like a whole different house.
Well, that sounds nice.
Yeah.
But also, for the realistic perspective, wintertime sales, when there's no blooming, and it means no mowing, there's no manicuring, I don't have to go and say, hey, we have a showing next week, can you please mow your yard, which might take them all day.
Yeah.
Or I end up having to do it myself.
Oh, really?
And I've had my dad there with me.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, oh yeah, we get in there and get it done. I mean, it has to get done. Our job is to sell the home.
Yeah.
But, so to answer your question, at the end of the day, when should I list my home for sale? When you want to sell.
Right.
Okay. Now, here's how a low supply works for you. Okay. A low supply means that when you put your house on the market and you're in a price range of $200,000 to $250,000 and you're the only one there, guess what? Every buyer that's waiting for a house between $200,000 and $250,000 is going to come look at your house, and they have nothing to compare it against.
Yeah.
All right. So you look great. All right, so they're going to come on the market. They're going to come and they're going to buy your house, and they might end up paying full price or better, which is very reminiscent to the 04, 05, 06 years. But so it creates a demand, all right, because there's not enough supply. But at a certain point, supply needs to increase because otherwise buyers will get frustrated. It's a stressful activity to have to look for your first home, and then you have to compete. Because your normal feeling is when you're being pressured to do something, some people back off and they don't want to buy a home. So supply definitely needs to increase. But I think we've created a good kind of aura in Cheshire County where the prices have gotten to the point where they're increasing now because of this increased demand. So really, sellers, it's time to list your home.
So where's the houses if Hillside is opened up?
Yeah. Are you going there?
Am I going to Hillside?
Yeah.
No.
A couple years?
Wow. Wow.
It's the beard,
and
man.
look at over here. I mean,
Yeah, but look at him. He's got a baby face.
all right. I'm shaving. My wife's not going to be happy, but I'm shaving.
Great.
All right, but why is it only 40? You said 44 homes right now currently?
As of today.
As of today.
Yeah.
Why is that? I mean, you heard about you heard Keene State College. They built their dorms. You got the Colony Mill that's going to build their apartments. You got the other place, the apartments. Wouldn't you think that may affect the housing market on some levels too?
Sure. But the demand is so strong right now that we're not refilling the supply quick enough. I mean, that's a good spin on it because home. I mean, I was writing down a bunch of stuff in preparation. The amount of pending sales from 2018, February 2018 to February 2019 is up 60%.
60%?
60%, which means that houses are getting bought, and we're not replenishing the supply quick enough.
Do you think that's people moving within the community, or is there an indicator in there if people are moving from outside the city into the city?
I am getting a lot of transplants, not necessarily corporate transplants, but just people coming here for way of life.
Yeah.
We're coming up. I'm retired. I'm in Massachusetts. I would like to come up to New Hampshire because of our tax structure.
I was going to ask you on that. The people coming in from out of state, obviously from Mass, because if they come up and our tax structure is different. Are you finding retired couples coming in, or do they say come into Keene for the school district? They say Keene has a fine, taxes might be higher in Keene than some of the surrounding towns, but we have a really good school district, which, especially now that Chris is back on the school board,
My kids
are almost out, thank God.
So are you seeing a little bit of that too? Do you find people that have school-age kids?
Yep.
Schools are huge?
Oh, absolutely. I won't give names, confidentiality. Somebody called me, they're coming from Colorado, okay? They said they're moving here. They have a couple friends that are here, so that's their kind of their tag in. Yeah. They said, we really want to come here. We heard the Keene schools are amazing, and we love the taxes over here. My house over here is $400,000. I can get the same exact house in Keene, New Hampshire for $250,000. All right? That's a good move.
And I wanted to segue into something else. And that's a good point.
Yeah.
Because, our tax rate in Keene tends to be a little bit higher than other parts of the state. There's no question. But when I point out to some people, say Keene versus Portsmouth, a $200,000 house in Keene is probably three and a quarter over in Portsmouth.
Yeah.
So even though our tax rate might be higher, the overall tax burden is lower.
Yes.
So you kind of showing that from the people from Colorado also. Even though our tax rate might be higher than what they had in Colorado, because they can get a house for half price, the total tax burden is actually lower.
That's always the case. It's always the details. And when people go and say, "Oh, I heard the market's not doing well," I mean, let's dive in a little deeper here, and really look at what's going on a case-by-case basis, year to date. Is inventory down? How's your medium, the pricing index, to see how your income, what that purchasability gets you? I mean, here's another stat. In Cheshire County, the Housing Affordability Index, okay, are you familiar with that? Mm-mm. Okay. It measures the house affordability means of your household income. So if you have an index of 130, and in Cheshire County right now, the housing index is 134. That means that your income, the income that's made in New Hampshire, is 134% of what it would take to qualify for a median-priced home in Keene. Okay, so that's good purchase power. Okay, people are making, on average, 34% more than what is needed to qualify for a mortgage in a medium sales price. Okay, now that's gone down slightly. Okay, since last year and the year before. Mm-hmm. Why has it gone down? Because because prices have gone up of houses. So they say that the median sales price since February 2018 to February 2019 is up 30.1%. Prices since last year. Okay, so obviously your purchasability has gone down, your purchase power, because prices have gone up, so you can't afford as much.
Asking price.
Right, but it's still 34%. You're 34% in the black. You're doing great.
Right.
All right. Now, this is all kind of theoretical economics.
Right.
But the reality is, the overall vibe is the market's good. Okay. Interest rates are great. Prices are going up. Houses are selling like that. The days on market are all down. A good priced home should sell like that. And they say on average that the New Hampshire percent of list price, from list price to sale price, is 97%.
Really?
Assuming you list it properly.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There's those houses that perpetually sit.
I want this.
Right.
Yeah.
Josh, I think you're right, but Mr. Zillow, Mr. Zillow? I've met him before. He says that my house is worth this. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, you mean Mr. Zillow, that mathematical algorithm that just
Right.
spits out values that don't mean anything, and you're only using it because it's telling a good story for you? You know,
Being in the car business, that's called Kelly Blue Book. Well, Kelly says
exactly.
my car's worth this. Well, has Kelly looked at your car
Yeah.
since you rolled it down the embankment twice?
Totally.
You know.
Yeah, and like you'll sit with somebody and say, here's all the analysis I've done, here's what I think your house would sell out, and here's all the things we do. Well, Josh, I don't think we should do X, Y, and Z, and I think it should be this. And what I say to a lot of clients is, do you have an electrician? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, do you debate with him about the best way to wire your house? You know, and he's like, no, of course not. Exactly. You know, because there's a lot in the knowledge of the trends of the market, where we came from the recession, and where we're coming from, which is a really good place.
Right.
What we need is we need more houses on the market. All right, so basically it's a message. List your house. I'm trying to get your business here. You guys want to list your house?
So
You
basically,
never know.
somebody's looking to downsize.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good time. Why hang on to a house we have extra rooms you don't need? Put it on the market, get a good price, downsize.
Oh, totally. My wife's already looking for like empty nest house for us. You know, because my
How old are your kids?
right, I know.
You get-
They're
you're
like
moving
5
already?
years old. I'm like, what the hell's going on?
How old are the kids?
My daughter's learning how to drive.
Yeah.
All right, she's got a boyfriend who's like 6'2", and
Already pushing them out. You know?
I'm not pushing him anywhere. The guy towers over me. You know? But my son is 13, you
Yeah.
know, and he's almost tall. It's not a big thing to be taller than me, you know, but he's taller than me already. So we're preparing for what's our next move. You know, we're going to stay in Keene. So the question is, are we moving to a small house? Do you want to go condo? What do you want to do?
Right.
You know, so everyone is still doing that. People are still upsizing. We're ready for our first time home. Some people, we are losing some people to the outskirts of Keene, you know, the Chesterfield or Westmoreland, because you still get the Keene schools and you have the lower tax burden, but you also lose the convenience.
Right.
Right.
And that's great. I mean, we want all those towns to succeed as well.
Right.
You know, but Keene, you know, 5 amazing public schools. You know, my kids went there, I went there. And, you know, the Keene State College is incredible. I wouldn't go anywhere. I have to be in Keene. But I don't know where I was going with that. Keene's great.
Well, good. Yeah, being on the city council, I can't move out of Keene anyhow. So you know,
Yeah.
you're stuck with me.
So, all right. So you right now the projection is that there's going to be definite growth in the market as the summer moves on, as in selling, as houses selling, right?
I do, honestly, but also I'm also programmed to be an optimist, you know, because like I said, I believe the market is what we make it. So, yeah, the market's great. But really the market is doing well. I mean, it is frustrating for my buyers that they don't see enough options of things to buy.
Yeah.
It's kind of like there's not enough chairs to get to, so that scares some people because then they might not want to list their home to move to another home because they don't know if they're going to find a new home to go to.
You know that we've been actually asked in the past about our house because we're right on, we're like walking distance, literally what 100 and maybe 100 yards from Franklin School, and people have actually asked if we'd be interested in selling.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
It's great, and so it's creating a lot more work for us realtors because you know we need to encourage our clients. Hey, look, I can find you a place to go because a lot of times a lot of these sales are originating because people haven't put them on the market, but we find out, okay, well here they might want to sell, and it's not even making it to the market because I already have a buyer. All right, so a lot of houses are just flying off the shelf before the masses.
So a lot of them
have a
aren't
chance to get to it.
aren't even really publicly out there. Just connections you've had through the years, where
Yeah.
people just say, "Hey, you know,
Yeah.
if you know a buyer, I could be selling," and
Yeah.
you make that call and
Well,
done.
I'm not going to sit and wait for my client while a house comes on the market with somebody else. I'm going to go find them the house. So it means making phone calls, sending out letters, trying to make these sales happen, and then they enter MLS after the closing. All right, because we're not allowed to put it on immediately as pending because it has to be available on the market. So a lot of houses don't even get in front of a buyer and it's already gone, which makes our job difficult as realtors, and it makes it very stressful for a buyer because they want to buy something.
Right.
And there's a simple solution for it. List your house. You know, this is great. It'll sell like that. You know, now we're seeing listings that sell in 2 days, multiple bids. You got to jump on it right now, which is tough, telling somebody to make a decision right then and there because they naturally feel like you're
There are some of these out of
trying to
town, out of
hustle them.
state that are just waiting for that certain house to come available.
Yeah, and I have to tell most buyers, I'm like, look, you're 1 in a million, you're amazing, but just to let you know, there are like probably 5 other people that are just like you looking for houses just like this.
Yeah.
So, and I know it sounds like a line, and we'll find out once it goes under agreement. Then you can say, Josh, you are right. Is it worth taking that chance? I don't like being in that position because that's very reminiscent of the boom years of 04 or 05, 06. But thankfully, it's not resulting in overinflated prices because appraisers are still going to have to look back at previous sales. So it's not like somebody can show up being like, well, there are no houses that are listed in this price range, so my house is now this, and it's $50,000 more than what it should be, because historical data will stop that from happening, which will stop the debacle of 04, 05, 06, where people were buying houses
Upside
for way
down.
more than they
Yeah.
were worth. But at the end of the day, it comes down to supply. The days on market are down, pending sales way up, I told you. The supply of inventory
What's
is
the
trending
average
down.
day right now?
The what?
Do you have an average time that the house is on the market?
They just gave me percentages on this, and all of this data that I have here is from the New Hampshire Association of Realtors, and which directly comes from the Northern New England Real Estate Network. So they publish this, and it's accessible to the public if you go to the New Hampshire Association of Realtors website.
How are we doing compared to other counties?
Right, that's a good question.
See,
I'm
Chris,
interested, yeah.
Chris told Josh to be here at 3:30, so we found out he had to be here at 3. He had no time to prep, so we've caught him like live.
Yeah, well, you gave me a chance to catch my breath at least.
Nope, no time.
Okay, Belknap County. Is that how you pronounce it?
Belknap, yeah.
It's not Belknap.
Nope.
All right, Belknap County, their closed sales from February 18 to February 19 is up 22.5%. We're up 23.7%. Coos County is up.
Coas. Just so you know, it's Coas County.
I'm sorry, I'm a Cheshire County guy.
Yeah.
You know, Monadnock, I can say that.
Yeah.
You know, Kentucket is up 57.9%. Grafton County is only up 5.7%. Hillsborough County is up 10.7%. Merrimack County is down 6.2%. Rockingham County up 6.3%. Stratford minus 9.6%. Sullivan up 39.3%. The entire state is up 10.3%, and we're up 23.7%. We are better than the average in the state.
That actually right there is a great document. I mean, I mean, even
So
for me,
Cheshire's up 23.
23.7% from February 18 to February 19.
Is that
in closed
once
sales.
again? I'm
Well,
just looking at figures. That's like leading the state countywide, isn't it?
No.
We're
the
almost
Sullivan
beating
County's 39.
Sullivan. Yeah.
So no, you're almost beating Belknap.
So basically, it's the counties kind of closer to the Vermont border.
Is it because we were slow to recover from the downturn, you know, and others had that quick and so we're now reaping the gains that they may have seen earlier, where we were making gains but not as dramatic as
Came to
this.
the party a little late.
I don't know, because you know, when I started in this business way back when I was 27 years old, and now I'm 43, I was more just focused on getting my business going, so I wasn't really looking at New Hampshire as a whole.
Yeah.
I just cared more about Cheshire County and getting a deal together.
Yeah, I mean, you always
So I don't
hear,
know.
but you always hear that we're always like either 6 months late. You know, if the recession
Cheshire
hits,
County in a whole,
we're
right?
Cheshire County as a whole is always about 6 months after everybody else,
Right.
and then we take 6 months longer to get out of it. So I don't know if that's true or not.
Like we celebrate the 4th of July at Christmas. You know, we're always 6 months off. You know.
Just let them go.
You got anything else you want to add there, Randy? So Cheshire County, median sales price is up 30.1%. The state average is up 5.7%.
Yeah.
So we had, and this is February to February. Now January was down, okay, and it says that right on this little beginning, like, hey, monthly indicators. So the year-to-date numbers appear lower, all right, because we had a poor January. And they say, why do we have a poor January? And they say, well, it's due to the weather, the holidays, and it had a slow start because we had all this rain. So we'll see as the next months go forward. But when I look year to date, that's an apples to apples look. February to February, March to March, we should see that increasing. You said you were interested in what other counties are you interested in?
No, I was just that interested overall where the counties were, and we're doing quite well compared to everybody else.
The sales volume in millions between February 18 to February 19 in Cheshire County is up 28.8%. The entire state is up 16.9%
So we're dominating.
so far. Days on market actually have gone slightly up from February, well, not slightly, but I don't want to put a spin on it. It's up 5.7%. The entire state is down 9%. So maybe we're experiencing a little bit more time on the market than we did this time last year. Okay? As long as it still sells.
But again, that could be due to the low sales because of the weather kind of thing, right? That's the hard thing. You're going to, as the months go on, as you say, the months go on, you're going to get a better storyline of where we're at.
Right. I mean, you can't make you can make year-to-year comparisons, but a year-to-date analysis with only 2 out of the 12 months is ridiculous.
Right.
All right. You can't take January and February and say, hey, there you go. That's not it. I look at snapshot of year to year to year.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned, weather too, and putting your house on the market early, where, well, they don't want to do it because it's bad weather. But I guess relating to the car industry, you have one of those Januaries that it's always snowing and everybody's miserable, and the weather's bad. But the car market, like the housing market, if somebody comes out in a blizzard to look at a car, they're
buying a car.
They're buying.
Yeah.
So, okay, you don't have 20 or 30 people a day coming in because it's snowing, but the 5 or 6 that show up, yeah, they drove through a blizzard, so they're going to buy.
You're not just getting browsers. I mean, so there's a lot more labor for the seller during the summertime because there's going to be a lot of showings.
Right.
They might not result in much because the person coming to look at the house might be looking at 10 houses.
Right.
All right. And they're like, well, why don't they want mine? I'm like, I don't know, because there's 9 others just like yours.
Yeah.
So they have to decide. Now they're really looking into the minutia of what your house differs from this house. So I love this time of the year. Like, I just listed a house today. Hasn't hit the market yet, folks, but I just listed a house today for $240,000. There is like 2 other houses on the market for $240,000 in Keene. I'm like, this is great. You know what I mean?
Does it really? I know the answer, but I'm going to say it anyways. I think I know the answer. Does it really matter where you live within the city what you're going to be able to say your house is worth? Like, if I live on the east side of Keene. Is that the east side of Keene? Yeah. I don't know what it's north side.
I don't know you live. You
North
never had
End?
me over.
Gilsum Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rec Center.
Up by the rec center. Yeah, and I don't have you over. There's a reason for that. But that's another conversation for another day when he's not here.
I'll take a shower. So
Yeah.
what was your question, sir?
If I live in one section of the city compared to another city, does that affect you? I actually had somebody text me that on a
East
show
Keene,
one
West
time.
Keene,
West
North End,
Keene,
South
just
End
saying,
type of
right?
thing.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Makes a difference. Makes a difference because of amenities that you get depending on where you live. It makes a difference if how much yard you have, what my commute is to work.
Well, Chris just mentioned that he lives walking distance to an elementary school.
Yeah.
So that'd be huge for somebody coming in with kids that you can walk 100 yards and get to school rather than busing them or
If
driving
you don't
them
like
in.
kids, that's not an optimum place to live.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, because you wake up in the summer, you wake up
To the rec center.
with the rec center, and it's the best thing in the world.
That's
Yep.
right. I mean, so yeah, the reality is this. We are very diverse socioeconomically, all right, throughout the city. And it just is what it is. There are predominantly rental areas. There are predominantly first-time homebuyer homes. Maple Acres versus, Hillside Avenue versus Ridgewood Avenue, Greenbrier, and then you get to south of Keene. I mean, that's what makes us
like, what
as
are you
diverse
looking
as
for?
possible.
Right.
All right, but the reality is that will determine what the value is of the property. When you get into the more East Keene, Southeast Keene, where you have the mixture of your older homes with some college rentals, God forbid, that will affect the desirability of that area. But then also certain things that affect desirability is taxes, all right, which is a factor of your assessment. Okay, so some people don't want to live 10 miles out from or 5 miles out from downtown Keene and then deal with the not lack of services, but less timeliness of services. I mean, I'm fine with it. I live up on Concord Hill Drive, and my road does not get plowed till the end of the day. It is what it is. And that's fine. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. All right? There's only 8 of us on the road, and that's okay. Some people can't take that. They need to be able to get to work. All right? Some people want to be in a neighborhood so their kids can ride around on the bikes and do that whole Ozzie and Harriet thing. And that's fine.
Ozzie and Harriet.
Right.
He's dating himself. He's getting there, Chris.
Well, I used to work for TV Land, so I know all those
Oh, there
shows.
you go.
Okay.
But so the reality is, your area is very desirable, all right, for some people. All right, it's just a matter of who it's for. But certain areas you go up to $700,000-$800,000 in value, and some there's a cap at $250,000. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
You know.
And at my house, during the summer, on Tuesdays, is it Tuesdays or Thursdays? I can't remember, but the rec shows movies. So you can literally walk across the street, sit down and watch a movie outside. It's the best.
I did not know that, and I went to Franklin School.
Yeah.
And well, at the rec center, they built that, little outdoor.
The Lions Club, yep.
Yeah, they built the little, outdoor little studio where you can go out and watch. But getting back, he mentions that'd be a selling point for a family with kids.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Walk across the street, watch a movie, family movie, a couple times a week.
Well,
Remember up at Robin Hood?
Yep.
Remember how
The amphitheater?
The amphitheater.
Yeah.
They used to have. I remember
That's
I saw
what
the Muppet movie caper there. Yeah. It came out in the early '80s.
I saw Swiss Family Robinson there.
It came out in like the '50s, right?
Yeah.
40s. Yeah.
That's 3. You're out.
No, but I mean Robin Hood Park, massive selling feature
Yeah.
for
Right.
people for East Keene.
Yeah.
Because most people don't realize you have hundreds of acres of conservation and hiking trails all throughout Robin Hood Park, and then the ice skating, and then
Pat Russell Park.
Well, my daughter used to go to the rec center times when if we had it set up so she could go to the rec center if need be, and there'd be times we'd come back and a friend would tell us that we pulled in and Allie hollered across the street that we weren't home. Or something. It's like she was watching the house the whole time. It was like, great, we have a watchdog too at the same time. So, all right, where was I?
Yep, just rambling incoherently,
Just go with it,
like
man.
our show
Yeah.
goes, But,
All right.
your house. You wanted me to value your house or something.
No,
Talking
no,
about
no,
your house or
no.
something.
he wants to find somebody that'll overpay for it.
Yeah.
No, I mean I grew up up on Jordan Road.
Right.
And there are definite benefits to being there, depending on what age you are. When I was a kid, it was a nightmare. Because I had to ride my bike downtown, and then my dad would be like, "You got yourself down here, get yourself back up."
Yeah,
and I'm like,
ride
"Oh, it's a
down
little
is-
different,
Yeah.
I mean, come on."
It's interesting you mentioned Jordan Road now that we mentioned houses.
Yeah.
I remember when you were a kid being brought up in that road, there was a handful of old houses on that road, and that was pretty much it. It was one of those neighborhoods that wasn't much out there, except
totally.
you guys and a couple other houses.
Yeah.
Now it's McMansion City up there.
It's filling in.
There's some high, but that's
Well, you still
definitely
have,
become
you
a
still
high.
have the Wilder family.
It's become a high
right?
tax, but the people that are up there with some of the smaller homes, I'm sure that's impacted their tax
My-
base a little bit. Where
My favorite house on that road is the brick house. I love that brick house. And the little house that's next to it, I like even
It's
more.
cute. The school. It's an old schoolhouse.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and Pig Shop. That house was actually moved at some point. I guess moved back. But I remember when I was a kid, there was an old man that lived there, and he buried his horse in the yard across. I guess it was very near and dear to him. And somebody bought that. I can't remember who, and they really spent a ton of money making it incredibly energy efficient.
Right.
And they did a great job restoring it.
Yeah.
And Jordan Road, when I was a kid, all apple orchard.
Right.
And we used to go there to watch the 4th of July fireworks.
right,
Up
like
there.
a lot of people did.
Yeah.
But now now the houses have gotten in the way up
Yeah,
there.
and it's okay. You know what I mean? Everyone should have, if you can buy the land and you can build, go ahead. And I'm happy
We'll
for
go
it.
make friends with people that
We're
that
getting
built the
near
house.
the end, so I want to. Is there growth potential in the city for new homes? Are
Yeah.
we landlocked?
No, we're not landlocked. There are pockets that are still really good. I think that we need to get builders a little bit to get, there's a lot of like PTSD, sorry for lack of a better term, for the from the downturn, that you don't see a lot of spec houses being built as much anymore. Maybe you'll have a lot sold and then somebody will build, but you don't have somebody saying, hey, let's build it, and they will come.
And is there a certain type of house, a certain type of market value that we don't have in the city that would be beneficial? Is it, if we're the graying area, is it is that something that ranch type or one level type housing?
I think we need two types of things. Okay, I personally think we need elderly housing, affordable elderly housing, built for the people that can't go to
That's
Hillside.
good because some of us are starting to knock on the door here.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Not everybody can afford. Not everyone has the luxury of retiring.
Right.
All right, or enjoying a hillside existence, or Bentley Commons, or all that kind of stuff. If they had
You
something.
have about 40 seconds, so no pressure. Go.
No
I'm
pressure,
answering. You
finish.
just
Yeah.
killed 5 of it.
Yeah.
No, so
You should be on full time.
right. No, but that's that affordable housing and housing for I think executive types, a little bit more not upper end housing, but just something that's better for corporate execs and stuff like that. I don't think there's enough of that.
Really?
I really don't. When somebody comes to me and they're working somewhere, so I need a temporary rental, I have nowhere to put them.
Yeah.
So That's what I think would be good.
Well, it's great having you on, Josh, because one thing you didn't do is dance around anything.
Yeah.
Being the dancer that he is. Congratulations on that already.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You going to do it again next year?
Of course.
We'll see you next in 2 weeks.
We're out of here. Thank you. Thank you, Josh.
You're welcome.